The conditional rating was a rating that was established in the old SMS days, where you had your satisfactory, conditional, and unsatisfactory. A conditional usually meant that you had enough severe acute violations, accumulation of violations in the same area would cause you to be, have a kind of a conditional. You weren't unsatisfactory, but you could make things a little bit better. Basically what they do is they present it to me, or I sit there with them, I see where the areas that they're short in, that they need help in, and then we send in the Federal Motor Carrier Corrective Action Plan. They accept it. Okay. That means, what are we going to do to fix it?
Right.
We fix it. Well, that's great, I can tell you I'm going to fix it, but 3 weeks from now, is it still fixed? So the conditional, within a year, 6 months, usually a year, you have the right to call them up and ask for a voluntary compliance review. Basically, the carrier had an intervention, which is taking the place of the full compliance review. For whatever reason, I had a high threshold in one of the 7 basic areas, which prompted them to come in and do an intervention based on a specific item. Once it was done, there was discrepancies found within the bookkeeping or the record keeping as far as the carrier went. So then they would turn around and they'd say, okay, what corrective actions are you going to make? So within a year, you contact them, you ask for a voluntary compliance review, intervention, whatever, and they come in and they check your documents, your records, they see what you've done, how you've done it. If you fail again, which would kind of be dumb, because why would you call them in if you weren't complying? But I have seen people do that. In the cases where I was doing, they hired me, I monitored it for a year, quarterly, monthly reviews, make sure all the documents, they were, one of the given areas was they missed their 50% on their drug. Okay? Serious violation. Critical violation. But they only did it once, so it's not really an acute, it's a critical. Now, hours of service, different. Multiple hours of service would be not only critical, would be acute, which would generate a civil penalty, and then you'd have to look at redoing the compliance review. In my case, of the 2 customers, one was hours of service, one happened to be drug and alcohol. The drug and alcohol portion was based on not following up by the carrier on the particular consortium they were in.
Which we talked
about.
Yeah.
The second one was an hours of service. It was an hours of service violation based on the carrier wasn't a long haul carrier, but a short regional carrier, and 300 mile or less. Their problem was they were getting a lot of holdups and not getting back to the yard, so they were going obviously over the 14 hours. Okay. We put together a corrective action program, driver training, looked at the logistical management of their operation, where they could improve. What could they improve to get the time frames down? It took a year. It took us a full year to really work the program. And once we got it, we contacted the Federal Motor Carrier, asked us what we did, we showed them what we did, we showed them the stops, the miles run per day, and they came back and said fine, and they changed it to satisfactory. Depending on what region you're in is how it's interpreted.
Now, you were telling me earlier about the situation in Pennsylvania where you have carriers that are sitting on conditional rating and have been under that rating for several years.
Several years. A lot of years, some of them. And
now what's going on there? I mean, what's the...
It's a weird situation, because I have explained to them that the best way is to put yourself out there to the Federal Motor Carrier and say, come on in. You're compliant. Why do you have this detrimental fear of not wanting to have the feds come in there when I'm telling you I've done a complete compliance review, you're ready? Right. And 70% of the feedback I get is, well, it hasn't bothered us. It hasn't cost us business. And as long as we behave ourselves and keep ourselves under the radar, we don't have to worry about dealing with the Federal Motor Carrier. Now, That is the old philosophy. Take it to the new philosophy. You're flying too far under the radar. You're not getting inspected enough that it may come back and haunt you. Before, value of service and time delivered plus cost was the formula.
Okay.
You got paid a fair price, you did what I asked you to do, you got the product there, you kept my customers happy. I wasn't going out and shopping for somebody else. Now, here, put Big Brother, the insurance company, into it, okay? Insurance companies are monitoring these carriers, and they're going, our lost pay last year was over 30%. The customer you're dealing with, or the carrier you're dealing with, has a conditional rating, and here's their current SMS scores.
Right.
So you take the threshold portions of it with the little speedometer, with the conditional rating down here in the far right-hand side, you put the two together, it's like, we don't think you ought to be dealing with these people. Since CSA has come about and has made public access to not just a general overall picture of the company, but fine-tuned specifics of areas. One of the ones that we say is fitness, driver fitness. Driver fitness on the outside looks terrible, but it could be as little as a guy, he washed his pants and he washed his medical card. Of course, that's all going to go away with the new certified medical examiner and the self-certification, but still, one or two of those on there looks like you're using unqualified drivers.
Right.
That is, what we like to say, that's on the wrapping of the bubble gum. It's not until you take the wrapping off you find out that the bubble gum is good gum, it's just ugly wrapper. Well, that's what's happening, and people are determining business with that. And the problem of it is, these are not big, multiple thousand truck companies.
Right.
The ones that are getting hurt are the 150, 250 and less that are competing in the markets with trucks with 18, 19,000 that can supply trailers, yard jockeys. They're needing that business. And not even, the guy that owns the manufacturer is saying, hey, I've been dealing with these guys for 20 years. They've always done me a good job. Yeah, well, they're a hazard. Continue to use them, and you're going to have a lost pay. Right. Bottom line, insurance will lost pay. Oh, there's carriers out there being conditional for 10, 15 years.
And they don't care.
They're not a trouble. They're not a problem. They don't have a high SMS rate. They don't have a high threshold. So it's kind of like, oh, why bother? Mm-hmm. And today you really have to be careful because the high profile chameleon carriers are taking much more precedent than the already pre-established, older established carriers that are just like, getting away with it. They're not an imminent hazard to the public.